Welcome to the deep dive.
You sent this one in, a spy thriller called Dilemma, Mozart's Medicine.
Ah, right.
And, well, it's got it all. Intrigue, art, a little bit of poison.
Sounds right up your alley.
Well, you know me, always up for a good mystery. And we have our expert here to help us break down exactly what's going on in the story. So let's just dive right in.
Yeah, from the excerpts you sent over, it looks like we've got a lot to unpack here.
Okay, so first, who is Harry Rasky?
Yeah.
He's a retired agent, right? But now he's an art dealer.
He's definitely trying to leave his past behind, but it's not that easy, is it? The novel hints at these previous missions, the Sister Project, Lucy's Breath.
Okay, and those sound intense.
Right. It makes you realize Harry's lived a lot of lives, and now he just wants something normal. But the question is, can he actually have that?
Right. And that's when this dead-on arrival, this DOA, just walks into a cafe. Like, talk about ruining your afternoon.
And it happens in such an ordinary setting, which I think is deliberate on the author's part. You're sitting there with Harry in a cafe, and suddenly, bam, this supposed dead guy shows up.
It's jarring.
Exactly. Puts you right on edge. And then this DOA drops this briefcase.
Full of poison research?
Full of poison research. So right away, you know this isn't your average everyday death. Someone planned this. Someone wanted this person dead.
And Harry's pulled right back into that world he thought he left behind.
Oh, yeah. And you can tell he never really let his guard down. He's watching every reflection, every car that passes by.
You get the feeling he doesn't trust anyone.
Right, because in his world, the enemy could be anyone.
Yeah.
Even your shadow can betray you.
So we have to talk about D.D. Greyson, this accountant.
Who is most definitely not your typical accountant.
Because he has a storage locker, right, with a ton of cash.
Mountains of it. And paintings.
And this is where it gets interesting for me. This artist, what was her name? Girolamo Spera.
Spera. And I think this is where the author really starts to play with us. On the surface, it looks like a classic case of art fraud.
Okay.
But the deeper you go, the more you realize there's something else going on. Like, who is this Spera, really?
Well, remember how the DOA mentioned a name, Yang Hu?
Right before he...
Departed, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Turns out Yang Hu is Girolamo Spera.
Now that's a twist. And it changes everything, doesn't it?
Completely.
Yeah.
Especially when we find out she's the niece of this super powerful Chinese official. Suddenly, we've gone from art fraud to international intrigue.
And as if we needed any more confirmation, look who shows up at her flat.
The police.
Them too. But right behind them, a black Mercedes. No license plates. It's like something out of a spy movie, and you know some heavy hitters are involved. And I think that's the end of the first excerpt you sent me.
A black Mercedes. Yeah, that's not ominous at all.
And right then, it's like the stakes just went up, don't you think?
100%.
Like we're not just dealing with small-time players anymore?
Right, because then there's this group, this quandary. Who are these people?
Ah, that's the question, isn't it? Are they the good guys, the bad guys? Somewhere in between. Honestly, I don't think even the author knows for sure.
Well, I like that.
It keeps you guessing, right?
Totally.
And I think that's deliberate, that sense of, not knowing who to trust.
It's like, are they helping Harry or are they setting him up?
And each member of Quandary, they're like pieces on a chessboard. You've got Kevin, who seems to be calling the shots, very ruthless. And Melinda, she's more cautious, more analytical.
She's like the voice of reason, kind of?
Yeah, maybe. But are her reasons the same as everyone else's? That makes you wonder.
It definitely keeps you on your toes, that's for sure. And then, just when you think you're starting to understand who's who, bam, a bug.
Planted where?
In Harry's flat. Someone's listening to every word.
Talk about unsettling. It really throws you back into Harry's shoes, into that mindset of constant paranoia. Like, who can you trust when someone's watching your every move?
And we have this new character, Harriet. She's... how do I even describe her?
Enigmatic. Elusive.
Totally. It's like she pops up out of nowhere, gives Harry these cryptic warnings, then vanishes. Like, is she real? A ghost?
Or is she all in Harry's head?
Now that's a thought.
And don't forget those high-tech cameras hidden in those mezuzahs, the ones she gave him. I mean, who even thinks of that?
Right. She's either brilliant or completely off her rocker. But speaking of untrustworthy, we meet Charlie Thompson. He's supposed to be like this high-ranking British official.
One of their own, supposedly.
But he's actually working with the Chinese.
Which is a huge betrayal, right? And it makes you wonder, if someone like Thompson can be turned, who else is compromised? Who can you trust?
Yeah, it really shakes your faith in, well, everything.
And just when you think it can't get more complicated, guess who plants that bug in Harry's flat?
No way, Melinda.
Melinda, on Thompson's orders. So, Is she a double agent? Or is she being blackmailed, coerced? The author doesn't let us know, at least not yet.
I mean, I have to give the author credit. They know how to keep the suspense going.
Oh, absolutely. But speaking of secrets, let's get back to those paintings, those Girolamo Spera pieces. They're not just what they seem, are they?
Okay, so what's the deal with the paintings?
Well, remember those microchips?
The ones that can control the military drones.
Those are hidden inside the paintings.
Wait, so it's like high-tech smuggling disguised as art?
Precisely. And it's brilliant if you think about it. No one suspects a painting.
Okay, that's really sneaky and dangerous.
Extremely dangerous. And to emphasize that point, the author brings in Leonard Knox. He's a cybersecurity expert, and he lays out the stakes very clearly. We're not just talking about stolen data here. We're talking about the potential for large-scale disruption, even war.
So how do they stop it? How do you even fight something like that?
Well, Harry and the team, they come up with this incredibly risky plan. They're going to swap the real microchips with fakes.
Like a bait and switch.
Exactly. They'll let the Chinese take the fakes, thinking they have the real deal, which buys them some time to figure out who's behind the whole operation.
Okay, I have to admit, that's pretty clever. But risky.
Incredibly risky. But then again, what in Harry's world isn't? And the scene where they actually make the swap, it's pure espionage at its finest. Billy, disguised as Harry, creates a diversion while Harry sneaks in and makes the switch.
Talk about tension. My heart was racing just reading it.
And just when you think they've pulled it off, the final confrontation with Thompson happens. In Notting Hill, of all places.
Which is like the last place I would expect a spy showdown.
Right. And it comes out of nowhere. Thompson thinks he's home free, £1 million richer and one step ahead of everyone, and that's when the Ginseng Moped gang shows up.
Okay, I have to admit, that part was pretty awesome. But I thought it was just some random gang violence.
That's what everyone thinks, including Thompson. But we know better, don't we?
Wait, are you saying it wasn't random?
Not at all. Remember Yang Wuzi? Yang Hu's brother?
Yeah, the one who basically runs China's security apparatus.
That's the one. He orchestrated that whole scene, sent a very clear message to Thompson and anyone else who thought they could cross him.
So those paintings that got destroyed in all the chaos?
Gone. Microchips, too? Thompson walks away with nothing.
Except maybe a few bruises, I'm guessing.
Mm-hmm.
But what about Yang Hu? What happens to her?
That's where things get a bit murky. The last we see of her, she's in the hospital after drinking that poisoned wine.
The one Harry left in her flat. So he knew. He knew it was poisoned.
That's the question the author leaves us with. Did Harry, the man who always tries to do the right thing, cross a line? And if so, how far is he willing to go?
It's a moral dilemma for sure. And it makes you think about the price of justice, the cost of operating in that world.
Definitely. Dilemma. Mozart's medicine. It really gets under your skin that way. And the fallout from this whole thing, it's not pretty. We've got Yangbo, remember him?
The brother. The one behind the microchip operation.
That's the one. He's forced to resign, publicly disgraced. But there's always a but, isn't there?
Let me guess. His brother steps in.
Like he was born for it. Yang Guzi, the new minister for state security. It's like they traded one problem for another.
It's a never-ending cycle. So what about Harry? He was back to his quiet life, right? Back to his art gallery.
I wouldn't call it quiet. He's working with Quandary now. But his relationship with Roger, well, that's another story.
I can only imagine.
Years of mistrust, secrets, they're like two sides of the same coin, bound together but constantly clashing.
A recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
Any sign of Harriet.
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Was she ever real? Or just a figment of Harry's imagination?
I don't know. The author leaves it open, doesn't he?
Which I think is brilliant. It keeps you guessing, makes you wonder what's real, what's not.
So no easy answers in Dilemma. Mozart's medicine.
Not a one.
It's a story that stays with you. Makes you think.
And isn't that what a good spy thriller should do?
Absolutely. This has been an amazing deep dive. Really makes you appreciate the complexity of this genre.
And the world we live in.
If you're looking for a story that will keep you on the edge of your seat, make you question everything, Dilemma, Mozart's medicine is the one.
Don't forget to look beyond the surface, though. Pay attention to the details. That's where the real story lies.
This is The Deep Dive, reminding you that sometimes the most thrilling journeys are the ones that take us deep into the shadows.